Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 292 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thank you very much for joining us tonight as we're going to be covering two things. One, a quick recap of the Pennsylvania Derby Day this past Saturday with some very exciting results. And then our first sort of unofficial Breeders' Cup preps are starting this weekend at Churchill Downs. We're going to be covering the ACAC Stakes, which is a 1 mile dirt race, and it is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. And then also the Grade 2 Lukas Classic at Churchill this Saturday, which is a preview and a prep for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. After you do that, hit that notification bell so that you know when new content will arise, and we have a lot of content coming up, especially for the Breeders' Cup here as I'm repping the hat, I'm repping the shirt. And then also smash that like button, of course. That will send the YouTube algorithm to our channel and let everyone know this is a great place to come for all of your horse racing information. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at HKravitz on the name tag at the bottom. And scrolling at the bottom of the screen, the email hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. We have some power picks as well. We have our regular power picks, of course, are on Saturdays. Please make sure you check that out through patreon.com, where we have regular power picks, but also, and I got to change the banner here because it says Saratoga only. Got to change this to Keeneland. We have just started, and as most people already know, because some people have already received the email for that, but we have Keeneland only power picks. I'm going to head and bring it up on the screen. There it is right there. Keeneland, well, it says races at the spa. I forgot to change the banner. That's okay. Races at Keeneland Racecourse. Let me change that again for everyone here. We have power picks just for Keeneland. Go to our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Let's see if there we go. Races at Keeneland starts October 6th. Please go to our website, hhhracingpodcast.com, where you can subscribe two different ways. Either every weekend, there's 3 weekends, Friday through Sunday, and you can subscribe for a discount of weekend only power picks at Keeneland, or you can subscribe only for individual weekends for one of the 3 weekends only. But the best thing you do is subscribe every weekend. You get a discount for that. Again, go to our great website, hhhracingpodcast.com, and you can find out about our Keeneland only power picks. We're going to be talking about ABC grids, price plays, spot plays, expert analysis, including the great $3 all-turf pick 3. It's a great bet. And not only that, Jim Goodman of Keeneland Racecourse will be here this Thursday to talk about all the wagering options you have at the fantastic fall Keeneland meet. You want to check that out during our flagship show Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Also want to mention Adelphi Racing. Adelphi Racing with Matt Cutera. You can see the information on the bottom of the screen. If you are listening to this, please go to adelphiracing.com, one word, or you can email Matt Cutera, the managing director, racing manager, at matt@adelphiracing.com. Again, matt@adelphiracing.com. Adelphi bought 2 horses at the Keeneland September sale, and one of them is still available, I believe only through tomorrow, Wednesday, as we're taping this on Tuesday night. If you're interested in buying a piece of a fantastic filly by Lauban, I believe, a New York bred, could be very talented, please contact Matt Cutera at adelphiracing.com or his email, matt@adelphiracing.com. Or if you're just looking to get into the ownership business, Adelphi Racing is a great place to go. Last thing, Instagram. We are on Instagram. You can see it on the bottom of the screen there. Instagram.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Again, Instagram.com and then just /HHH Racing Podcast. We have a great Instagram page. Check it out. We have information there as well. All right, before I go to some comments that we have, as we have a lot of people already in the comment section, let me bring on my wonderful co-host from the East Coast of Maryland. Let's bring him on. See if he's excited for these Breeders' Cup races as I am. Pete Visco. Pete, how are we doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
I'm doing all right. We got a lot of comments in the chat, Pete. Let's see who's here real quick before we start.
Let's do it.
Of course, Racing Downwind, better known as David Duncan, is here. David, how you doing? You see Racing Downwind's changed his banner there, Pete, to the Breeders' Cup 2023 logo. It's the 40th anniversary. We're very excited about that. Michael Austin. Should we ask Michael about Reincarnate? No, I think we'll just let that go. Well, we can bring it up during when I think
we'll wait for the race. Let's wait for the race. Yeah.
All right, we'll wait for that. Richard Avalar is here. You look like Joe Cool in your Breeders' Cup colors. Thank you, Richard Avalar. I don't know about the cool part, but I'll take it. Mr. Pete, great pick over Gunite. You're a master handicapper. Wow. Very nice.
The PayPal is on the way, Richard. The PayPal of the payment for that comment is on the way.
There we go. We're going to talk about Gunite and Nimitz class a little bit also. Tonight we got Kyle Roscoe in the house. What's up? From Betting and Boozing. Speaking of which, I actually was on the banner originally, Pete. We've got two great shows coming up this week. Tomorrow night, of course, Betting and Boozing. They're going to be covering Belmont. And they have a huge day on Saturday with their Breeders' Cup prep races, or at least some of them. Check out Ben and Boozin tomorrow night, Pete. 9 p.m. Eastern, with all the boys are going to be there. And then, of course, our flagship show Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern. We're going to be tackling Santa Anita's great Breeders' Cup prep races / Pick 5. Pete, it's all starting. If you haven't done your homework, you need to start doing your homework. And when I say you, of course, I don't mean you specifically, talking to people at large. The Breeders' Cup takes a lot of studying. We've watched these races and these horses all year long, but it's time to really deep dive, get into the Euros, etc.
Yeah, for sure. And lucky there's some good tools out there where they'll put all the Bring You're In races in one place so you can sort of watch them all. There's a lot of great tools. Makes it a lot easier now to handicap in advance than it used to be back in the day, for sure.
Yeah, don't wait too long, for sure. Ron Esterman is here. What's up, Ron? Matt Miller. I think he's done a few good things in the contest world and horse racing overall. Matt, thanks for joining the show. How you doing tonight? Let's see. Look who's here. We haven't seen him for a while. Siggy Mendoza, former guest, by the way, on the show. Hi, guys. Exciting weekend. Yes, for sure. He's got some predictions and strategies and more on Siggy Mendoza. Oh, he's got his own picks. Wow. There you go. Okay. So he's got Siggy. Check out Siggy Mendoza as well. All right. There we go. Kyle, promo for tomorrow night. Check it out. Vosberg. Joe Hirsch, a little Cody's Wish action. I don't know if you've been reading the news, but there's some very interesting entrants at Belmont this weekend, Pete. Rebels Romance is running in the Joe Hirsch on the turf.
Saw that.
And, Algiers, who finished second in the Dubai World Cup, is going on a trial run here on the main dirts at Belmont. If he runs well, we might see Algiers in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And Pete, if you've got a really good, we'll talk a lot more, but I'll just end our little preview here at this, or pregame. If you've got a really good horse over in Europe or Middle East or Japan or anywhere, and you think they can run on dirt, this is the year to beat the Americans in the Classic, because as much as I personally like Arcangelo and some others, the best these horses have run of 103, 105 buyers, it is up for the taking in the Breeders' Cup Classic this year for a foreign invader, in my opinion.
Well, you saw Dermot Sotogake today. They said whatever was ailing him has cleared up, so he is pointing to the Classic as well. I thought I saw on Twitter somewhere today. So that's another one. I mean, I think it's going to be that we may have a little bit more of a foreign contingent in the Classic than we're used to seeing, and they're going to come in with a shot, which is going to be exciting.
And I think it's great. Listen, I want more. The more entrants we have, the merrier. The more, I have a feeling the Classic's going to be a big field, but I don't know. We've long way to talk about that. But let's have as many.
It'll be a nice race for the middle of the pick 5 this year.
Yeah, it's going to be the third to last race, everyone.
Yeah.
The
third
to
leg
last,
of the
not
pick
even
5,
the penultimate
the late
leg.
pick
It's
5.
going to be
the
third to last race on Saturday. All right. Let's see here. Oh, there's a good question, Ron. Then we'll get started. What's your over and under on number of starters for the Classic? Pete, you want to take a guess on that?
What's the cap? Do we know is there a cap on the number? Because I would go pretty high. I would go
on the Santa Anita Dirt. I'm guessing is a complete guess. 14 would be.
That's what I was thinking 14 because that was the number I was going to say.
Well, he wants the over under, so he wants.
I would say the over under would probably be 11 and a half. I would say.
I think I would go under on that one, by the way, but we'll see. I think that's.
If I had a horse that had any sort of class at all, it's going. I would think. Thank you.
There we go. Jeff Amster, 14.
Hey,
there
Matt with the 11 and a half.
Matt Miller, 11
me and Matt with the 11 and a half.
All right, let's get on. We're two things, and people are wondering why is there Churchill Downs banner at the top? Because the prep race that we're talking about tonight are going to be Saturday at Churchill Downs, and they are both, of course. Well, one's an official prep for the Breeders' Cup, a win and you're in. The other not so. It's not a win and you're in, but some of those horses you'd think would be pointing towards the Classic. But before we do that, Pete, let me take the banner off the screen. We're going to very briefly talk about the goings on at Parx. Listen, first of all, they last Saturday they got the races off, Pete. Right? That's the good thing. And also, people were wondering. Paul Halloran has a work commitment tonight. He's hoping to join us, though, Pete. I'm feeling he will join us late, but he has an important work commitment tonight. But hopefully, Paul will be joining us. Pete, at least they got the races off. The weather actually, it wasn't good, but it wasn't like torrential downpour the whole time. It was ugly.
It was just rain. Yeah,
but it was rain. It was sloppy. It was wet, whatever. I didn't really think there was much of a bias. I think you did want to be in the middle of the track, but there was some closing. I think you were better off in the middle of the track showing early speed. I think that's how at least I felt like Saturday played.
Yeah, that seems right. Not my favorite type of day. I thought the speed was sort of, I guess it depends on the race, depends on the horse. So, we always talk about the bias, but a good horse can sort of overcome a bias. So you never know in some races. But yeah, I agree with you. Unless you're riding with Biden and you were just running in the puddle, you're not getting second, right?
Oh, we're not going to talk about that race, but boy, did Paco.
Oh, look, yeah, RDW. We're on this. Me and RDW are on the same wavelength down there.
That was, if you had riding with Biden for second, that was completely ridiculous. But anyway, let's talk about the Parx Mile, Pete. And you were, I won't say you were against Gun Night, but you were trying to beat Gun Night. I personally was not, to be honest. We're not going to show the replay, Pete, but Nimitz Class runs one of his better races, and I thought he was regressing until Saturday. I'm not really sure why he was able to step up in class, but congratulations to one of the best last names in horse racing, trainer Bruce Kravitz, of course, with Nimitz Class. No relation, by the way, just in case anyone's wondering. Gets back to his 100 buyer. Gun Night didn't run poorly, Pete, but just, again, was goofy a little bit with his lead changes in the lane. We've seen this before from him. Did not get the job done and got upset at 30 cents to the dollar. And as I'm talking here, we got to bring on, here's Paul Halloran is with us in the car.
Are you in a haunted house?
Commonwealth of Massachusetts. How you doing, Paul?
Oh, it's been a long day, Howard. I need some horse racing to get my to balance the madness.
All right, well, we'll let you sort of get settled in. Pete and I, we're just about to talk about the Parx Mile. Pete, your impressions of the race?
Yeah, I think going in, we talked about Gun Night being super vulnerable and a horse that was going to be at least one of us on the show talked about him being super vulnerable. I won't toot my own horn and say who, but he's just, 2 turns is just not his gig. And I think that's what it comes down to. And that's why I was comfortable beating him here. And I assume we'll talk about him from a Breeders' Cup perspective in a minute. So I won't step on that, but I just thought in this race, he just wasn't as good. 2 turns isn't his game. And Nimitz Class isn't a great horse by any stretch, but he's a good enough horse who has tactical enough ability to sit close. And basically that's what he did. He sat sort of a great trip, sat off a horse. Mish was sort of Mish wasn't the strongest of speed horses, wasn't someone you were super afraid of to get really loose. You thought was Gunite would get the lead, and you see if somebody can come get him, and Nimitz Class was able to do it.
I mean, look, Paul, if someone told me that Gunite was going to run, and I singled Gunite, I think you went a few deep, but you mainly used Gunite, I believe, in the pick 5. No, you were spread?
No, well, I used them, but I was, as usual, I was in the camp of this is the time to try to beat them, but didn't have the right horse to beat them. That's the part of that equation that I sometimes miss.
Well, look, here's my thought. If you had told me that Gunite, and I singled him on the show, but I used horses underneath, including Nimitz Class as a C, which did hurt me selfishly. I talked on the show. I don't love the 2 turns for Gunite, but Pete and Paul, if someone told me that Gunite would run a 97, which is about what I said. I think on the show I said he'd run like a 95 or small regression. But I didn't see Nimitz Class running the 100. I think that's what sort of surprised me, Paul.
Yeah, I didn't either, but I got to tell you how it was really, and I like Gunite. I love him as a horse. I like the connection, so I got nothing against Gunite, but it was one of my favorite results of the day. I've written about Bruce. That was Bruce Kravitz, correct, who trains Nimitz Class. Yes. Bruce has won the training title at Penn National about 15 times. He ships, when he ships, it's, either to Parx or Presque Isle. It's his biggest win of his career, and he's got, I don't know, 3,000 or so, whatever the number is. But yeah, just really happy when a guy like that wins on that stage. And the horse earned it, as you said, Howard. Gunite didn't really stub a toe with the 95. Was he capable of better? Sure, but it wasn't like he ran an 83, right?
No.
So, he Nimitz Class, and for Gunite's style, and Pete, I hear you with the 2 turns, but knowing he's going to be, forward, that's where you want to be on that track that day for sure. So Nimitz Class did a lot of running in that race, and I'm really happy for Bruce Kravitz and the connections.
By the way, real quick, the Nimitz Class did, which was interesting, and one of the reasons why I liked him, his only race on an off track was in the mud at Laurel, and he actually ran a 99 buyer. So if you're looking at it just from a can he get to above where we think Gunite would be, Nimitz Class showed that he can get to that number in certain spots if he runs his race, and if the race shape breaks the way he wants. And I think all of that sort of happened in this one.
The other thing I love about Bruce Kravitz is my last name is spelled the same way that he spells his last name, and it's a little unusual. Usually a lot of Kravitzes are ITZ or ETZ, but he also spells it ETS. I'll never forget the first time I saw that. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But again, no relation, in case anyone's wondering. Pete, the last question I have, it's really for both of you, and then we're going to move on. What do you do with Gunite? Now, the assumption here, or Steve Asmussen pretty much said it, guys, that the reason why he's in this race is because they were thinking about running the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile against Cody's Wish, by the way, and keeping him away from Echo Zulu, who's a complete freakazoid, but is a mare or a filly. She's 4-year-old, right? So she's still a filly technically. And they were going to run Echo Zulu in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Sprint against the boys. I'm assuming, guys, that's not going to change. What do you do with Gunite now?
It's a great question, Howard. Similar to Bill Mott and Godolphin, backing off the classic route with Cody's Wish after the 2-turn Whitney didn't work out. You got to think that unless they just think it wasn't his day and he didn't handle the track, and depending on the complexion, if there's not a lot of speed in the dirt mile, I think he can get a mile. But I think it does have to Pete's point, I think it's got to be under the right circumstances. And, if he's lone speed and, we know our friend Cody kind of runs one way, I wouldn't rule out them going that route. I don't see the wisdom of, putting them in the sprint if he's going to run Echo Zulu unless they feel they have to double team Elite Power.
Well, Paul, what's wrong with running 1-2? I mean, I just don't. I get it, but they're not the same styles. I think Gunite is not as fast as Echo. I think if they decide to go that way, Echo would send hard because that's what she does best, and Gunite can sit like a length or two off. I mean, there's also some horses we're going to talk about them tonight. Zozos, who will probably run in the dirt mile, is fast and very good. There's a horse called Saudi Crown, guys, that I would not be shocked if that horse is in the dirt mile. I'm getting that kind of vibe. Look, Pete, there's usually, Baffert's going to send someone. Like, there's always speed in the dirt mile. Gunite is not winning that race based off.
I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. Not. I'd rather win two Breeders' Cup races than finish 1-2 in a race too. They could win. Winchell and Asmussen could win 2 Breeders' Cup races if they really wanted to.
I think Echo Zoo is going to go against the boys.
I know, but I'm saying I'd almost rather just win 2. Why not win 2?
Oh, you're saying send Echo Zulu to the girls and have this Gunite?
Because I think Gunite. I don't think Gunite can win the mile. I would go on record right now. He's a toss for me, 100%.
Well, I think a lot. We're going to know a little more after Saturday. Yeah. Even though it's a 7 furlong race, we need to see how Cody's Wish responds from what was clearly a subpar effort. I spoke with Michael Danahan from Godolphin again on Saturday at Parx, and I said, Michael, I understand, you guys had to do what you did, and now you have to do what you're going to do. I will go to my grave believing he didn't get beat because of 2 turns and 1/8 of a mile. But that's me. That's my theory. Who the hell cares? I have theories on everything.
Well, Charles B brings up he said run Gunite a mile at Breeders' Cup Santa Anita is different than what we saw at Parx. I agree. It's speed favoring. He's goofy. He does not switch leads. I've seen this a zillion times with Gunite. It took him a while to figure it out, guys, and he finally figured it out. But he didn't switch leads in the stretch, and that might have cost him again. He's a really good horse. I mean, really good. But he's not a 2-turn horse. So it's going to be fascinating, guys. We've got plenty of time to talk about it, but it's really going to be.
Let me just say, having been there, you're not going to get a more favorable mile setup than you did at over 2 turns than you did at Parx this past Saturday.
Unless you like the slot, Paul.
Well, that could be, but he would be one of the few gun runners who didn't.
I mean, he's been really good. I mean,
they win at 25%, Howard.
He ran a great second on the slot 2 back. So you would think it wasn't the off track, but you never know. Every track's different.
Right. Yeah. No, I listen. It's gonna be one of the interesting stories of the entries, guys. Really, is what Asmussen does, because that's going to affect a lot of things, in my opinion. So that'll be interesting. Let's go to the cotillion, Paul. Let's once again talk about why the cotillion was so cool on Saturday before we actually talk about the horses that ran.
Yeah, it was, and of course, it takes effort to insert a negative into such a great story. But as you know, Howard. The consistency of horse racing Twitter is to be admired, even though it should be repulsed. But
well said.
I did, and I'm going to tell you what, and I'll be honest with you, and I was there, and I met Philly Joe, by the way, again, which is a highlight of my day, the best.
Cool. Right.
I did a ton of work. I worked on the notes team. I was running quotes and writing stories. But I went back on Sunday on the way home, or in the airport during my 3-hour delay. And I listened to the call, and I honestly, and I'm never going to be truly objective when it comes to Jessica Paquette, but I tried. It was a good call. Is she as good as Trevor Denman or Travis Stone or Frank Miramati? No, she's been doing it for 7 months, 8 months. But forget the negative. It was a wonderful thing. She's the first woman to call a grade 1 race in the U.S. and for all we know anywhere. It was a good call. She came back with the grade 1 Pennsylvania Derby. And if you don't think she's great, go listen to a race from last December when she started, and then watch her tomorrow on Parx. And shouldn't we be judging people not on where they were at the beginning, but how much they've improved.
Paul, the biggest thing is you don't have to like the way she calls a race. It's nothing against her. You don't have to say it rudely for the public. Like there's a million race callers who I listen to. I'm like, I don't really like them that much. That's it. You think it in your head, and who gives a crap? You know, it doesn't affect how you bet the race. Who cares? So they're not giving her the Breeders' Cup to call or the Derby just yet.
And
so
Pete,
so relax.
We had this, Pete. I'm so glad you said that because Tom Law and myself and Tim Wilkin and Anthony Affronti had that exact conversation at dinner after the races Saturday. How does it affect you?
Yeah.
Now, she's not inaccurate. Now, maybe you might say, well, she's not emotional enough, or I don't like that she says fifths and not the exact whatever. How does it affect you as a race player? And more to your.
Okay.
He froze. That was an impassioned speech there.
By the way, Pete, the very up close Paul shot is a bit scary.
I love it.
It's like Halloween.
I'm walking in. Leave me alone.
All right. Hey, Paul,
it.
do you want us to take you off for a minute and bring you back on when you're ready?
No, I'm going right up to my little cave here.
All right.
I might. You know what I might do though? I might switch devices. Yeah, let me switch devices.
All right, I'm going to take you off, Paul. I'm going to take you off.
Yeah, I'll switch devices.
All right. All right. Let's get to the race. Ceiling Crusher, this was their Breeders' Cup. Doug O'Neill said, I have to admit, I didn't love her in this race. I was wrong. She ran very well. But again, Pete, I just want to, you can be right and wrong, meaning you, meaning me. Right? So I didn't love Ceiling Crusher, but when you look at the buyers, I mean, she got a 93. I thought Pretty Mischievous would bump back to a better number. Occult, which was my pick, I don't understand. And Occult ran well, Pete. And this race really bothered me because Occult was my biggest win bet of the day. And I just don't understand. Occult was the 5 here. I'm just going to be selfish for just a minute. She broke fine. And Rosario, I don't know why, he should have just kept using her speed a little bit and be, somewhere, but like right here, I guess he's not asking at all. Like, do you see where my arrow is, Pete? She should be like right in here. She should like up, like following this horse, whoever this is. And she's like drugged back. And then when the 6 rushes up, she gets like in between horses. And then like he studies. Like, I talked to Matt Bernier actually about this through texting. If you would have told me Occult would have been last, and now you see that she's like rank and pulling. I mean, she can't win from here, Pete. I just don't understand the ride and the strategy there. But we'll just go to the end of the race. Ceiling Crusher took the lead, and she was game. I thought Pretty Mischievous, who's right here, Pete, the 3. There was my arrow. Had every chance to go by, and just she tipped out. I thought right here, Pretty Mischievous was the winner. I'm assuming you did also, like right here.
No, I didn't. I was pissed the whole race because I didn't have Ceiling Crusher, and I thought the rides on, because I had Pretty Mischievous and Occult, and I thought the rides on both I didn't love because I thought Ceiling Crusher, once she got her own way, was going to be too hard to catch. So I didn't have any hope coming down the lane. Unfortunately, I'm glad I didn't, because it's one of those where if I'd have been cheering, I would have been even more mad. But I just didn't think, I didn't watch either one thinking they had a shot to go by her.
Well, and also wasn't that, where was Hoosier's Philly speed? I mean, like, I don't.
Well, we know, the thing is, we know she doesn't have speed.
It's $1 million race, Pete. It's $1 million race. I know it was sloppy track, but 47-3, 112-4. Like, I mean, it's $1 million race. We've seen this a zillion times, Paul, and I'm sorry, it sounds like sour grapes, but Pete and Paul, I just don't let me bring Paul on. I just don't understand, guys, why they don't go after these horses early when Ceiling Crusher was the main speed. I don't get it. I'm sorry.
You know what my takeaway from this race was?
Go ahead, Paul. What?
Pretty Mischievous is winning the Breeders' Cup distaff.
Ooh, I like that.
What? Wow. Okay. Interesting. I was going to say
necessarily agree.
I was going to say the exact opposite tonight. Talk to me, Paul. Explain your rationale here.
To Pete's point, she was far behind. We talked to Tyler. Did not believe she handled the track whatsoever, at least until they got down the backstretch.
Okay.
And you weren't on that track. You weren't catching Ceiling Crusher. if she runs against Ceiling Crusher tomorrow, I'm cutting in line to bet her. I don't know. I just thought she ran the best race.
Paul, I will
think
on live YouTube, Paul, I will put a gentleman's bet that Pretty Mischievous will not finish in the top 3 in the Breeders' Cup Distaff.
Ooh! I sense more than I think that we could be.
And we're going to see it live, Paul. So I might eat my words live in person. How's that?
I think she's very good. I don't think she lost anything. Ceiling Crusher's a good horse, had everything go her way. Edwin Maldonado rode the right race on the right day on the right racetrack. Hats off to him. I agree with you, Howard. I was surprised. I was very concerned about Hoosier Philly in that race, to the point where I used her as a B, because I kind of thought she could get that trip. And I think the horse you liked, Howard, also ran well, a Cult.
Well, I just showed the incremental. She finished faster than anyone, and like we said, she was dragged to the back and got steady a little bit. And I'm actually a little more interested in her in the Breeders' Cup than Pretty Mischievous, to be honest. I just think, and look, I love Pretty Mischievous. She's a great horse. She's just slow though, Paul. I mean, I don't know what to say. Her best buyer's in 96, and I was going 1 turn at Belmont. She's going to have to step up her game. Maybe she's better than I give her credit for, but just these 3 old fillies this is just a very weak crop, Paul, in my opinion. This whole year, the 3 old fillies have been beating up each other, and I don't know. They don't do much for me. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, we'll see.
Pete, your thoughts on
we got to see with the speed. There could be some pretty good speed in the distaff, which could set it up for, we don't know who yet, but she's going to be coming. Whether she's good enough to get there is another story. But if there is the speed shows up, then I'm not too far against Paul's idea.
Yeah. Richard Avalar said the same thing. You're right, Howard. Why not put a different jock on Hoosier Philly if he's not going to the lead? I didn't watch the break. I can't remember if she broke slow or not. I'd have to watch. She
doesn't get the lead in races when there's a horse that's faster than her. That's her problem. She has to be faster and have a slow enough pace usually.
Isn't this horse going to be a problem, Paul?
No.
Are you done with her, Pete?
I love her. You know that she's one of my favorites. But I think she may be on the. I did the last 2 were they sort of put a.
I think Nest is more of a problem. I think Nest is more of a problem. I think
I don't like any. Yeah, she's 4, right? Yeah.
Well, you see the at least the nominations for what is that? Shoot, I'm forgetting which race it is. The older Philly mare.
The Beldame at Belmont?
Yeah. Did you see the nominations? That field looks fantastic if even a good chunk of them show up.
Yeah. Going there. So.
Yeah. I mean, all the big ones were in the nomination pool, whether they're going to go or not.
Who's the horse I liked? It was a power pick that won at Belmont, an up and coming horse for.
Let me see if I can. I just sent it to my. I have it right here. Hold on.
The name. If someone could tell me, she's driving me crazy. An up and coming.
Nostalgic?
Yes, thank you. Is Nostalgic in that race?
Well, no, these are just. I mean, yes, in the nomination. So if you look at it, I'm not going to read them all, but
you don't know until tomorrow.
Clariere, Idiomatic, Clariere, Idiomatic, Nest, Nostalgic, Randomized, Secret Oath. So.
Oh, geez, that's basically the Breeders'
Cup
Cup
nice.
Staff right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Well, so don't forget about Darren Manor is probably going to go, and she's very fast, but won't get a mile and 1/8. I don't think it's San Anita. Anyway, we're digressing. We got 2 races to talk about. Let's talk about the Breeders'. Let's talk about the Pennsylvania Derby, guys. We went back and forth on this show about Saudi Crown. Some of us like Saudi Crown more than others. Saudi Crown got the job done. I thought it was pretty impressive, to be honest. The speed wasn't as crazy. He went was 1.1 to 1 and won paid 420. The speed was decent. It was 23:47. I actually thought it'd be quicker. Reincarnate, finished 6th. We didn't like Reincarnate. I guess I wasn't surprised at all that Reincarnate finished 6th. I don't think really any of us were. What I was surprised is that JJ Hernandez didn't really seem intent on really sending him up close. I mean, he broke fine, and he was like 3 wide the whole way. That surprised me, but that helped Saudi Crown. So to me, the 2 stories in this race are Saudi Crown, and then how about Pletcher's Dreamlike? The only horse that actually closed at all And maybe this horse is stepping up his game and maybe sent to the Breeders' Cup Classic. I don't know. But Dreamlike really ran huge in this race.
Orma's just really, that's another one who may just like the off ground.
Maybe.
2 for 2 on the wet. 472 Tomlinson rating, if you care about that, for Dreamlike. So when I saw that, I was like, that should have been a tip, at least to throw that horse in at a decent price.
471, Pete.
Oh, I see 4.7. I see 4. Oh, that's after this race. Maybe does it change? I don't know if it changes.
No, it doesn't change.
It's 472 on the regular one. If you scroll down, scroll down a second. Just curious.
That's weird.
Well, again, a gun runner. There's another gun runner.
Oh, that's a great call, Pete. I don't think it changes. I thought
I didn't think it changed.
I thought that's the number that stays. Well, anyway, your thoughts on Saudi Crown, Pete?
I thought this race shook out the way I mentioned on the show, which for once actually, happens the way you think it's going to happen. Was I thought he was good enough to get, if he gets an uncontested lead, which he did, I thought he's good enough. He could be one of those horses that you have questions about how they're going to handle the distance. And then when they're there, they just kick away. And I mean, there was closing on him, but he kicked away and it looked pretty comfortable. Like I never looked like a loser in that race at all. And I don't know if the extra eighth might be too much. I don't know about the classic for him. He'd be super dangerous in the mile. I have to admit that. It'd be fun to see Cody's Wish try and run him down as opposed to maybe some other horses we might see, but he just looked good. What else can you say?
Cox did not commit to anything. They're going to take a look at the fields and make a decision. I would be surprised if he doesn't go to a Breeders' Cup race. The mile would be perfect for him. In fact, I think I would suggest they go to the Breeders' Cup Mile. There could be a lot of speed in the Classic, and I don't know if he's that good. But you know what? No one, Paul, is really that good, so I could be wrong about that. I don't think either spot would be a bad decision, to be honest.
Howard, I got to tell you, if I had a bet, if I were a betting man, and of course, I do this just for the sport of it, but if I were a betting man, I would bet that horse lands in the Classic.
Cox also has Proxy, right? Oh, no, that's Stidham. I'm sorry. That's Stidham.
Yeah. This was another really good scene. The owners are from Saudi Arabia, hence the name. Yeah. They flew over here for the Keeneland sales and stuck around for this race. And I'll tell you one thing, and you'll be there. How they could not be any more excited if they win the Classic than they were at winning the Pennsylvania Derby. They were just. It was quite a scene. Really good guy. His name is Faisal Al-Khatani, and just a real great gentleman to meet. And they were really exuberant. But he did say, because I asked him that question, right? What about the Classic? Yeah. And he said. We are here to assist, but the decisions will be made by our trainer, Brad H. Cox, who's one of the best in the business.
Paul, I've got a weird question, and then we have to talk about the two races because I really wanted to just spend an hour today. We just looked more. In a weird way, would it be better for Cody's Wish to have Saudi Crown in the mile race? Because although he'd be a huge contender, it would create more speed and possibly set up better for Cody. So as a big fan of Cody's Wish, Paul, do you want Saudi Crown in the mile race?
I guess. I mean, I think Saudi Crown is a serious horse after seeing that the other day.
I agree.
And I'll be honest with you, Howard, if Cody's Wish rebounds Saturday the way we hope he does, I don't think it will matter who's in the race.
I love the confidence.
No, honestly,
wow.
I mean,
you could be right. We'll see.
We went into the Whitney universally agreeing he was the best dirt horse in training. Yes. So he ran an off race, no stipulated, but in the dirt mile, but I will say, I wouldn't be rooting to run against Saudi Crown. I think Saudi Crown is. That's a good point. They do want to run him in the Saudi Cup, but that's November. Look at these guys have been involved in racing in America for only a year. They went to Keeneland and bought a bunch of horses. Yeah. They wanna make their mark in U.S. racing. If they have a chance to run in the Breeders' Cup with this horse, they're going to run in the Breeders' Cup with this
Pete,
horse.
I suppose they could skip that and run in the Pegasus and then go to the Saudi Cup, which is the end of February. So, I mean, that'd be good spacing there. This horse is really good. Just skipping the entire Breeders' Cup seems weird to me with this.
Yeah. Hey, you know me and Paul, we're old school. Run them in all three. What the hell?
There you go.
Let's go old school.
There you go.
All right, we've got 3 real quick races to talk about at Churchill. Everyone's like, 3? What are you talking about? Can we just mention this race? Race 4 on Saturday. Race 4 on Saturday. Copper Missile is a horse that all of us have a small piece of for Crownsway Racing. Kelsey Danner's done a great job with this horse. Adam Bishiza, or as Kyle calls him, Adam Bishizzle my nizzle. That was for you, Kyle Roscoe.
The biscuit.
Yeah, the biscuit. This is a talented 2-year-old, guys, and Crownsway was thinking about sending him to Keeneland in 2 weeks, where I'm going to be there for the Breeders' Cup Win in You're In male 2-year-old turf race. They decided to be a little more patient, but this is a nice allowance race that he has a great chance of winning. So everyone check out race 4 Saturday and root on everyone here on the screen and Kyle Roscoe and Crownsway Racing with Copper Missile, a very nice 2-year-old out of Copper Bullet who won last time at Kentucky Downs. But guys, let's talk about the 2 races that we're really here to talk about, which is the 2 Breeders' Cup prep races. Here's the first one, guys. I make it bigger. This is the ACAC. It's so good, you got to say it twice. It's the ACAC. $400,000. It's 1 mile, 7 horses. We do not have morning lines yet, but you see on the screen there, this is a very nice field. This is a win and you're in, guys. A win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. So, Paul, obviously you have extremely strong interest in this race, as does, hold on a second, who's doing the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile for the podcast?
I think I am. I think I am.
You had to give it to him. It's Cody's wish.
I knew I gave it to you. Let me go with the banners on the screen here. Here's our picks. Again, we're just talking about 10 minutes, guys, on each race. Where are my picks? Here they are. There they are, scrolling at the bottom of the screen. The first time everyone is seeing this in the group. Pete, let's go to you first, actually, Pete, because you're the only one that is going with the 4 on top, and that is Stage Raider. Formerly Chad, now Cherie DeVoe, came off a huge win at Ellis with a 96 buyer. That's who you're going with here.
By the way, I sent you the wrong number. It's 435. I sent you the 6. That's my bad.
I will change it.
I did not have Skyro. I didn't. So Skyro is definitely going to hit the board, obviously, now because I'm switching the pick. But yeah, I'm not a huge thank you. I'm not a huge fan of Zozos, even though in this race, and I know we'll talk about it, he has a sort of a pace advantage. So I was looking at Stage Raider. Cherie DeVoe she's been red hot in the past 5 months, 4 for 13 wins, 10 for 13 in the money and graded stake. So if you look at her overall for like the last 5 years, it doesn't look as good, but she's just been red hot. She picked this horse up from Chad Brown. He had 2 I don't know where the races 2 and 3 back. Oops, apologies. I have to. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Problem. So 2 and 3 back. I don't know.
Would it fair to say, Pete, that he had a hiccup 2 and 3 back?
I yes, that is funny.
You with me there, Pete? All right.
Yes, I am actually, okay. But I don't know what caused it. I wish I knew what caused the hiccup there. Would have been nice, but came back with her, that first race with Cherie, it was 19-1, wasn't the greatest field in the world, wasn't the greatest class, popped a nice buyer. Looks like maybe just got back to where he was headed towards at the end of last year. And this was a horse who's, he had some, he lost the highly motivated. He popped some nice buyers. He looked like a horse that may be on the upswing. And then his year ended in July, came off the long layoff, threw in a couple clunkers. Who knows? I just think I don't love anybody in this field. So I'm having to assume this horse is going to be a little bit of a price too when we get the morning lines.
I chased this horse a few times last year. This was a complete money burner and a real disappointment for Chad. Yeah. Let's just face it. Total money burner. Couldn't break well. Just was supposed to be all that and just never really panned out. And he did get a dream trip. We can't show the replay because, of course, it's a Churchill Downs race. So anyway, but he got a perfect trip, but he broke well and did it well. Paul, you've got him second. I've got him third. He's a player here, Paul.
Yeah, I could not have any more respect for a trainer. I think Cherie DeVoe is really good. I really do. I think she's really, really good. I just think that Zozos, because of his speed and this being a one-turn mile, I just think Zozos has this field over a real big barrel. But I picked the 4 seconds, so that's I agree, Pete. I think you can make a really good case for the 4. The improvement was notable. It would not kill Cherie to win with a horse that was formerly trained by Chad. And again, I think, Pete, you can look at the PPs and say, yeah, we know that she's coming off. He was coming off a couple of clunkers, but really, 19-1 at Ellis, really?
Yeah,
that's one of those. After the race, you're like, huh? I think that toss is worth 19-1.
I think
his
so.
form was really bad, Paul, and then people saw Chad off.
Well, 2 races. There was 2 races, and the 5 out of 6, 6 out of 7 before that were all good.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he definitely surprised the bettors on that day. Paul, I agree with you. I think Zozos is going to be really tough to beat here. There's not a lot of speed unless Cattle River goes nuts on the outside. That's my only concern. Unless Cattle River, who actually runs well at Churchill, but I've never been a fan of Cattle River, and I'll show the PPs of him. Unless Cattle River just goes nuts and sends hard, Zozos is wiring this field. Drew's not taken back. I think Zozos is really good. And with all due respect to Cody, and I hope Cody wins the mile, if Saudi Crown doesn't go to the dirt mile, we don't know who else is going. I think this horse is a very nice horse, and it is a deserved challenge to Cody's wish in the dirt mile, assuming he runs well Saturday, Paul.
I don't have any argument. I have no argument with that. I do think, being a speed horse, this one-turn setup is better for him, but you could argue it's better for Cody's wish as well. So, they're both going to be running 2 turns at Santa Anita, although, Cody's wish got it that. I think the 2-turn race at Keeneland is very difficult for a horse like Cody's wish, which makes that win, over Cyberknife impressive. But no, Howard, I would agree. I think this horse is a big time contender. If he wins this race, he's 7 for 11 lifetime.
Yeah.
He has won outside of Churchill. He went to Fairgrounds and won. So I have no argument with that.
My old favorite Derby horse, Obesos, is in here. 3 Technique is a nice horse for the coach. Not Dwayne Lukas, but Coach.
No longer. They got this horse claimed way back.
It's not Parcells anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the last thing I'll say about Zozos, guys, then we're going to move on. If people are concerned about that last race, the Island was not Travers Day.
Haskell.
Was that Haskell? No, that wasn't Haskell Day.
No, it wasn't Haskell Day.
I take it back. But the inside, here's my point. The inside has not been great at Monmouth. And if you don't believe me, go watch Search Results last win, who I loved at Churchill, because Search Results also went to lead and didn't do well at Monmouth. For some reason, the inside's not been good at Monmouth. So I'm not going to take too much out of that Monmouth race. It was also a slow pace. It was weird. Wayland Springs won. I don't know. I trust Zozos much more at Churchill in this spot, in my opinion. I think he's going to be tough to beat if he runs this race, guys.
Okay, watch real quick. Bezos. Yep. I just wanted to mention, because I almost put that horse in my top 3. He runs really well off layoffs. So even though, he could be, he could be sharp for whatever reason, maybe that's just something he likes. And it's not a long layoff this time, but still, maybe it could be something to look at if he's a half decent price.
Let's go to the last race we're talking about tonight, which is race 10. That's a nice double, the ACAC and the Lukas Classic, by the way. Race 10, there's our picks on the bottom of the screen. Everyone has seen them for the first time. This is not a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Classic, but you would have to believe some of these horses, if they feel they're good enough and the connections feel they're good enough, they will go to the Breeders' Cup Classic. This is a very nice race. It's a grade 2. $500,000 is the purse, 1.1 miles. And guys, this is a really good field. There's a lot of really nice handicap horses. I know the handicap division is a little bit down this year, but there are many good ones in here. You see the field and you see our picks on the screen. Let's go to you first, Paul. You and Pete are both going to Real and Roll. I'm guessing Rattle and Roll is the morning line favorite. We don't know, but I'm going to guess Rattle and Roll is the morning line favorite. I'm going to say a soft morning line favorite at, I'll say 5-2, 3-1 would be a complete guess. Paul, what is it you like about Rattle and Roll in the Lukas Classic Saturday night?
It's kind of ironic how, and I was dead against this horse last time at Saratoga in the Jockey Club at 7-5 or 8-5.
Right.
I'm not really a huge fan of this horse per se. No particular reason, but I think other than that last race, which was off a little bit of a layoff, and I don't know, I just don't think was spotted well. He's pretty honest, 8 wins, 2 seconds, 2/3. That's 12 out of 20 on the board. He shows up. He's definitely a horse for course. 3 wins, a second and a third at Churchill. I think this is the right distance. Wasn't going to close at 1.25 miles at Saratoga on that track. The way that track plays. I think 1.125 miles is the distance. I just think the horse is I agree with you on the quality of the field, and I see you have our friend picked on top, and you can. I'm sure you would at least thought about separation papers, but you have resisted signing them. So, and by the way, I had a long conversation with myself about doing the same thing. Trust me. So, but yeah, I think it's the right spot, the right distance for Rattle and Roll. I agree with you on the quality of the field, Howard, but I am if when I go to bet the Breeders' Cup Classic in the Breeders' Cup betting challenge, if I have any money left at that point, I won't be worried about anyone in this race beating me.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Paul. These are nice horses. I don't think Rattle and Roll, Pete, is like a Breeders' Cup Classic major threat, but he's as honest as the day is long. And I agree with Paul. I like the turn back for this horse. He's done very well at Churchill. I'm sure you were going to mention that. So sorry to steal your thunder. 6 out of 6, but guys, in the money for Rattle and Roll. This is just a really good spot, and I'm expecting a big race from him, Pete, on Saturday. Although I don't have him on top, but I have him second.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, if you expanded his PPs all the way out, he runs crap first off a layoff every single time. So if you look at that last race and you're a little disappointed in it, and like Paul said, I don't think any of us really liked him in that spot anyway, but he's run pretty poorly first off the layoff each of, I think, the 4 times he's done it in his career. So if you look at that and say, okay, he got that one in, that was his clunker. Now he gets back to the form he was showing before that. And I think he might just be better than the horses in this race. And it comes down to that. And there's enough speed in here for him to have something to close into.
Yeah, I don't want to show works. Sorry about that. Although if you want to see the works, there they are, everyone. Let's talk about the 9, guys. This is a horse that I have some history with, as I think you guys know, American Revolution. This is a horse last year who finished 2 really good seconds to Olympiad, who, guys, I think we would agree Olympiad would be the Breeders' Cup Classic favorite this year. He was really good. And then, they ran him in the cigar. They didn't run him after that. I think he had a bit of a hiccup, if I recall, because I wanted to see him in the Breeders' Cup Classic, even though I don't think he was going to win. But I mentioned him as a Breeders' Cup Classic contender at the time, other than Flightline. He went away a long time, and I almost brought up the video, guys, but I did not like him in the Evan Shipman. We talked about him, if you guys remember, that day, where I was like, where has he been? We're going to talk about his works in a second. There was a million things I didn't like about him. Here's my feeling, Pete and Paul. 2 things. First of all, this is a horse, and I was like, Howard, what the F are you talking about? He's not a gelding, okay? And this is China Horse Club and Windstar. Paul, don't you think if this horse couldn't run anymore, he'd go right to the breeding shed? That's my opinion, at least. Pletcher must see something in the morning where he's convinced this horse can still run. And I'm not going to doubt Pletcher in that situation. And I brought up the works. Guys, let me talk about the works, because this is the last major thing we're going to talk about tonight. I think it's very important. I'm going to show all the works. And I realize not everyone on the screen will be able to see this because it's a little bit small. Let me make this a little bigger. But This horse has never been like a fast. I'm going to go one more bigger here. This horse has never been a really fast workhorse. Okay. However, if you look really carefully, there was a break in his last from June 22nd to July 13th. And then he was working really slow, like July 13th, 52-4. What? And then he ran, a decent breeze going into the last race. But guys, look what's happened since his last race. Breezing every week, 49 breeze, 102 breeze, 102 breeze, and then a maintenance work. He's worked steadily since that last race, and he's not a fast workhorse, but he's been working better and steadily, and it just feels to me, guys, like he's primed and ready again for a big race. And I just personally think that if this horse couldn't run anymore, they wouldn't run him here. So he might bomb out. And I also think we're going to get a decent price. I think we might get 5-6 to 1 here, guys. And so at a decent price, I'm hoping he's got Gaffleone, who's going to be, I hope, aggressive on this horse and put him into the game. This is one of these horses, Pete and Paul, where either I'm very right or very wrong. I'm going to take my chance that he can run back to one of his better races. Paul, your thoughts first, then we'll talk to Pete on this horse.
I think it's all plausible. I'm not positive he loves Churchill, but I think that's all plausible. And, if we want to, if there are any craps players out there, if you bet the come line in craps, you kind of, it's speculation, right? Speculation of what's coming. And I honestly think that's what Pletcher's doing here. I think Pletcher wants to find out if this horse is still as good as he was. And this, frankly, is a good spot to do it. This horse could go to the Breeders' Cup Classic out of this race. He could never run again out of this race or anything in between, in my opinion.
Pete, your thoughts on American Revolution, then we'll end the show.
I got two quick ones. I'll just say the one thing in his favor, which I looked at, was last year when he came off the long layoff from December to June. He sort of ran a bit of a clunker in the Blame and then came back and ran probably, one of his two best races in the Foster. So maybe he needed that one tightener, and then he was ready next out, and he lost to Olympiad on this track with a great buyer and you see that 1:30 time for him, which is fantastic. And then the other thing on the negative side, I found a weird stat. Todd Pletcher, 0 for 15 on the win end with 4-year-old and up horses in graded stakes on dirt at Churchill. So take that for what you will, but I just thought that one was funny. I mean, when I see those zeros for the top trainers with a little bit of a sample size, it always catches my eye.
He's always struggled a little bit, Churchill. Pete, I have a ton of respect for your stats, and it's a fair stat. I just don't think he usually sends his best, to Kentucky. I mean, he's a New York guide mainly, and his best. But that's the interesting question. Well, I'm with this. I'm going to take American 11. By the way, there's not a lot of speed. I have 5-star General actually in third because I think he could just hang around for a piece, even though I don't think he's going to win. There's just not a lot of speed in this race, guys. As I go ahead and bring us all back on screen, you got Happy American on the inside. It's a really interesting race. The Jockey Club Gold Cup is this weekend, Paul, right, at Belmont. So I find it a bit odd that Todd goes to Kentucky instead of that race. Unless Todd is Bright Future running is a problem in that race.
Isn't the Jockey Club Gold Cup this?
Isn't the
Woodwood? Isn't the Woodwood this weekend?
I'm gonna have to look it up. But
I'm gonna be there, so I'll know at some point.
Todd must be separating his better ones, right? Like, why would he send this one to Kentucky? Is a little bit weird to me.
Yeah, well, I think it's the right spot if you want to find out. One interesting point about him, though, Dr. Ardito won that Evan Shipman, took some money in the Parx Dirt Mile and ran a horrible on Saturday. And Wheeling Springs was also entered in that Parx Dirt Mile, who I thought was a player and scratched. So Wheeling Springs scratched out of the Dirt Mile. Dr. Ardito, who American Revolution ran with last time, and American Revolution did not run well in that race, as you predicted, Howard. But Dr. Ardito, who won that race, came back to run poorly on Saturday, for whatever that's worth.
I'm trying to find Pete.
The Woodward is this weekend, the field isn't. isn't super. Pletcher has Grand Sonata in the probables, but again, this is just the probables from Horse Racing Nation. Grand Sonata Zandon is in it. Your horse O'Connor. There you go, Howard. That's your that's
really?
The
O'Connor's back.
The fastest horse from Southern America, fastest Irish named horse from South America of all time. Is that the
It
one?
isn't. Go
and
ahead.
then Algiers is going to be in it.
So the Jockey Club Gold Cup, guys, is the following week.
Correct.
Well, that's on turf. Wait a minute. What am I looking at here?
No,
I must be okay. I'm just totally wrong.
Algiers is interesting. They ran
the Jockey. I'm so screwed up, guys. They ran the Jockey Club Gold at Saratoga this year.
Right.
Anyway,
Algiers,
why does he run to Woodward? I guess is the question.
Yeah, they want to go to the. Pete, they want to go to the class. They're shipping Algiers over with the intention.
Yeah, we talked about that before you came on.
Yeah.
I like that horse too, Paul. I think that one he could be dangerous. Yeah, I hope he runs well this weekend.
I do too. Guys, as we wrap up the show again, got a lot of things going on the channel. We have Keeneland only power picks. Look below the video player, guys, for information about Keeneland only power picks. You need to go to our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. And I heard a rumor that the winner of the Grade 1 Gamble this spring at Keeneland is an author of the power picks. Who would that be, Pete? Oh yes, Paul Halloran will be authoring some of those power picks, and Pete and myself will be authoring the rest of them as well. Tomorrow night, we've got Bet and Boozin'. They're covering all the big prep races at Belmont. And then Thursday, we are covering all the big prep races for the Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita for their opening weekend. And Santa Anita, guys, stole a little thunder from Jim Goodman at Keeneland, because Santa Anita is now going to have a $3 all-turf pick 3. I don't know if you guys heard about that. They also have a $1 pick 6. That's not a Rainbow 6. They're bringing back a more traditional pick 6 at Santa Anita. And the last thing I'll mention, guys, is for any of you that are interested in the Breeders' Cup, there are big-time European Breeders' Cup preps that are happening this Friday morning, this Saturday morning, this Sunday morning, next week. We're going to have Davey Lane, guys, cross our fingers, once again, one of the best shows of the year that I look forward to give us intel on the Euros and right before the Breeders' Cup. But again, to get a head start, guys, and we're previewing some of the Breeders' Cup races on our power picks. You might want to check those out because there's big races in Europe also, guys, this weekend.
Yeah, Mike Austin just asked if we'll be handicapping the ARC. We won't necessarily be handicapping it, but it is one to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on it.
In Paris. The last thing I want to mention is we are going to have, and I haven't announced this yet, guys, to everyone. We are going to have an exclusive Breeders' Cup package power picks that we're selling separately from our power picks. We're going to be covering all 14 races, wagering strategies. We've done power picks every year that has the Breeders' Cup in it, but we are doing exclusively Breeders' Cup only power picks, guys. It's going to take a lot of work. We're very excited to present that. That information will be made to the public in a few weeks, Pete and Paul. But I know we're each taking a bunch of races, and our Bet and Boozin' guys are each taking a race. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know Matt Bernier has mentioned this many times, but he much prefers the Breeders' Cup over the Kentucky Derby. And Paul, as much as a thrill the Kentucky Derby was for us as first-timers last year, as a whole event, I got to say the Breeders' Cup's my favorite.
Oh, it's not even a discussion. I mean, yeah, I love the Derby. I loved being there. I loved seeing Cody's Wish running the undercard. But, you know, I put it to you this way. The Derby is for everyone else, and the Breeders' Cup is for the horse players.
Michael Austin, our Thursday show is actually, we're not handicapping opening day Friday for Santa Anita. No, we're neither one of those. Paul, I agree with you. Pete, final thoughts on anything this weekend at Churchill, anything you saw at Parx, the Breeders' Cup, anything in your world personally that you want to mention before I wrap up the show?
No, nothing horse-wise. I think we know Penn State Scott. I will not be at the Breeders' Cup, unfortunately, unless I somehow qualify for the BCBC in the next month or month.
You got time, Pete. You got time.
I choked a few weeks ago in my qualifier that I was in, so we shall see. I'll wish on air my son Jackson happy 12th birthday on this past Sunday.
Hey, how was it?
It was great. I mean, he's spoiled, so he gets lots of presents. He likes that. We had one of his friends over and their family, so it was good. He's 12 now. Next stop is teenage years. So, getting old, man, getting old.
I feel your pain, Pete.
I know you do, Paul. I know you do.
I remember meeting Jackson for the first time on this show. He's just a little tyke, and now he's a young man. I think this would be a teenager for me to call someone a young man, but he's a growing boy, soon to be a young man, teenager. It's pretty crazy, Pete, isn't it? I don't want to make you
no, it is, because he was, I think he popped on probably not too long after we joined. Thank you, Richard. I'll show that to him. He loves it. He loves a little shout out. He's a glory whore like his dad. So, he likes being on the screen. So he'll love that.
I think before the Breeders' Cup, we'll have a few shows where we have some weekends that are a little quieter. We'd love to bring him on, and he made a great Father's Day present for you, the last Father's Day, right? Where he put together a video of your favorite horses. It's really cool. Maybe we can get him on the next few weeks if he's willing.
Yeah, we'll do that. He's more than happy to talk on camera. He'll love it.
I'm sure. He's a Visco. He loves to talk. We
love to talk. Right? We never shut up. That's why me and Paul, when it's just us on the show, it could go on for 6-7 hours. We love it.
All right. Well, I got to get back to doing some schoolwork, and the Cubs were winning, someone said, and they're in the middle of a playoff chase here until they make the playoffs and then lose in the first game of the wild card. But anyway, we can all hope. For my wonderful co-hosts, Pete Visco, Paul Halloran, this has been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 292, right? 292 of the HHH. Is that right? I just lost it. I think that's
292.
Right. 292 of the HHH Racing Podcast. We got a lot going on this channel, so please make sure you subscribe. Tell all your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers. It is going to be a wild, fun ride, guys, the next about 37 days leading in to the Breeders' Cup at beautiful San Anita in Arcadia, California. Crush your bets this Saturday at Churchill Downs. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.